All right, this is Newbin Solo Talk Anime Podcast, episode 12. It's going to be a follow up to our Saekano podcast and episode 8, where we're covering the movie and the end of the show. So, quick intro: Saekano, How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend, also known in the long form as Sainai Heroine no Soda Tekata, and the short form Saikano, is a Japanese light novel series by Maruto, with illustrations by Kurahito Masaki. Fujimi Shobo published 13 volumes between July 2012 and October 2017 under the Fujimi Fantasia Bunko imprint. And the Saikano movie finale is a 2019 Japanese animated romantic comedy film adapted from the 8th to 13th and final volumes of the light novel series Saikano: How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend, written by Fumiyaki Mariro and illustrated by Kurahiro Masaki. The film was originally released on October 26, 2019 in Japan, and as of the making of this, we still don't have a definitive release date for when it'll be out in the States. Uh, and a quick summary on the movie. The movie follows. Uh, uh, the movie starts directly after the end of the show and follows Tomoya and the rest of Blessing Software as they work on finishing their next game. So, I guess let's just go into overall impressions. I love this movie. I love the show. I thought the story was great. But what were your overall impressions, Solo?
I deeply hate this show. I think this is everything wrong with anime. I think this is the epitome of shitty harem anime. And yeah, honestly, I'm kind of glad in part one it cut off halfway through because it was pure negative and it was just getting worse and worse. And my mental state was declining. So I don't even remember what I said in the second half, but I definitely was not going to be positive. And the fact that it was lost to time is probably for the best. For this movie definitely didn't change anything for me. I feel the exact same way. I actually forgot how shitty the show was because it was very forgettable in general. So coming back to the movie, I actually had forgotten a lot of the show, so I kind of listened to our podcast that we did part one and just went over kind of what happened to try to make sense of where the movie's picking off. And it didn't help at all. I mean, I just remembered how shitty the show was and got angry about it. Then I just got pissed off watching the movie and about how boring it was and how pointless it was. And I don't think it adds anything to the story, and it was just a waste of my time.
What do you mean it doesn't add anything to the story? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it doesn't give me any type of real closure on anything. I didn't really like how it ended things. I just would have preferred the ending of the anime versus this ending because I mean, who gives a shit? Honestly, what was even the ending of the anime? I don't even remember. But either way, it was terrible. Everything was terrible. This show absolutely sucks. If you like harem and you hate yourself, you'll like it. But if you actually enjoy good anime, this is a definite pass, and you can just stop listening to this podcast right now.
Wow. Well, I think it's pretty clear that me and you uh, have a little bit of a difference of opinion going on here.
Yeah, do you remember
Because this
I
is probably going to be in my top five anime of all time.
we took a 3-month hiatus when, we were watching this in the first place. I mentioned in the first part of the podcast because it took so long to watch this, and it was so hard to get through, and this movie, it basically ruined my whole day.
Movie was actually like, even if you had some issues with the show, this movie was a directorial masterpiece. It was a freaking masterpiece. I cannot find a single flaw in this movie. I tried. I wanted to go into this a little bit more critical, and that way I could come off as being a little bit less biased. So I just went through and just tried to find a single flaw with the movie. The movie was perfectly paced. Each of the each character in the main cast, and even some of the side characters, got plenty of on-screen time. Got an adequate amount of character development. The plot progresses smoothly. The animation was gorgeous. Voice acting was pretty on point. Yeah, the music and the sections where the music needed to pop, it popped. I and overall, like everything from the characters, the story, yeah, everything about this movie was a literal masterpiece. I mean, I'm not even joking. I tried to find stuff wrong with this movie. I just wanted to be as critical as
Yeah,
possible. This
yeah,
way
and
I was being completely
one thing I
unbiased
would
and
like to mention here before we really get into it, we did have difficulties, obviously, since this wasn't officially released in the States. So I had to use like a fan sub, which I thought was okay, but in full transparency, it is actually garbage. The subs that I used as well, which further made this more frustrating because the subs I used they were decent at some parts, but other parts you could totally tell they were just complete garbage fan subs. Um, they would like call like misgender the characters. They'd be like, "Oh, he," and I'm like, "Who the fuck are they talking about?" And they're talking about the shake, and like there's just and it made things even a little bit more confusing because I already barely remembered a lot of aspects of the show and kind of what was going on. So like I had to like re-remember the characters in the movie, and that's the thing. Like for people that are watching this anime in the States, the difficulty it is to get a hold of the movie itself and if it will ever even release, which is the conclusion of this show, is so tedious and bullshit. Like if you don't if like it's not worth it. It's just not worth it at all. You should have never even watched the show in the first place. That's just how shitty it is. It's just a terrible experience. The whole thing from start to end and every aspect of trying to enjoy this show.
yeah, I mean, and I wanted to. I mean, just on a little tangent, real quick. Remember, I wanted because I have the movie on DVD, and I was like, let me just try to find a way to find a better way of copying it and stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously we had some trouble with it. I don't even know if the version of the movie I have is like the official version. It was like something somebody was selling on eBay, and I was like, it could be a scam, but I want this movie bad enough that I'm willing to lose $30 if it is.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be the actual movie.
And
So
th and that's kind of the reality of this, like, I feel like a lot of people that even enjoy this anime in the States haven't even watched this movie, so, I mean, unless
yeah,
they
yeah,
watched.
it's pretty hard to find. You can't even find a torrent for it online. Like if you're looking for it at all, you can't even find it in Japan. And if you're in the States, I mean, you can try to torrent, you can try to look on every single streaming site you can think of, and you will not find it. Cuz believe me, I spent a year
Well,
trying.
apparently some
So,
people are finding it because there's people that have fan subs for it, and there's people
yeah.
on Reddit that were talking about it, so obviously it's somewhere, but
I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure some people have gotten a hold of the same
the important
DVD
thing is,
copies that I got.
like, official release is very important, so this anime clearly didn't do well in the first place, otherwise or at least
It
in the
did pretty well.
States.
It did well enough to get a theatrical release for the movie because the movie was released in theaters.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think the Japanese audience, this is more suited to like their fucking mental disorder of not being able to, get into 3D girls. And I guess Reddit, a lot of them share similar themes. As we ran some polls on Reddit asking 2D or 3D, and 2D girls kind of overwhelmingly blew that away on multiple different Reddits. So,
I should
pe-
also remind you
so
that you also voted for 2D Girls,
we together unanimously we voted for that as a
but you
meme,
were the one
which
who
I feel like
physically
most
clicked it.
most people probably voted for it for the meme. But in reality, that, like I mentioned in the first part of this, which you should have listened to reference back to, but I did specifically mention that it is fucking disgusting and fucked up in all aspects. That is like seen as okay, because like It's not okay. It's ruining Japan. Japan's population's declining because of this shit. Like fucking weeaboos and otaku pieces of shit are just like jacking off to
Nah,
anime pillows. Like this is like the dystopian future like we would have dreamed was like
I,
nightmare scenario. Like the Japanese like ancestors that had respect and honor would be ashamed of you. And if you're Japanese and you feel this way, then you need to like change your society. Um,
no,
that's how I feel.
I think
Because
what we
this shit
ultimately need
just
to do
feeds
is
into
figure
it
out
in a
how to
disgusting way.
digitize ourselves into like our favorite anime. Because that's the ultimate future I would like.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
just
Well, we're getting into
just to be
that.
isekai'd into the world of
We're getting to
one
that
of my favorite
eventually.
anime. So I guess with that random tangent out of the way, we can go into story and characters. First of all, with story, I think that like I mentioned before, everything with this movie I thought was perfect. The story in particular, even though I kind of knew how it was going to end, it still like had
You kind of knew.
enough
Like the
twist.
thing is, nothing even happens at all in this entire movie. Nothing is like different, diverts expectations even slightly. That it may as well not even happened.
No, no, it doesn't need to really divert expectations. It just needs. It's not about the destination. It's
Like
about the journey.
no,
And I
because like
think that
all
movie.
this is like okay, they were working on the game, and then like they're working on the game, and then they finish the game, and then he picks the bitch, and then the other bitches don't accept it totally, which is something definitely we can talk about. How this is harem is still fucked up, even though my one of my biggest criticisms in the first part of this was I hate harem because they never pair them up, but even this pairing them up doesn't solve anything because the other bitches are still twisted.
No, no. Like what this anime does really well in respect to the so-called harem, which I don't know if you could fully call this a harem, but what this anime does in respect to that is like you remember like Megumi, she like even after like her and Tomoya get together and stuff, you have Eriri and Utaha. They still want to be friends with her because they weren't just there for Tomoya. They were also there for Megumi
Yeah,
because they were friends with
yeah,
her.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a whole different thing where you're
No,
like even after the you lose the guy and stuff, you're still all friends.
no, they
And
still wanted him.
no, no, I mean maybe Utaha, but
They literally say they want him. Like, what are you talking? Maybe that was that my subs were wrong. I don't because like it clearly
no,
says
no,
like
no,
they're
no,
still
no.
into him. Like
Yeah, like they were kind of still into him, but they also realized that yeah, they lost this battle, and
but
so
they
they
didn't
just
lose the war.
proceed to huh?
But they didn't lose the war.
They basically lost the war. But it doesn't matter though because that wasn't the point. The whole point was that they were all still just friends and like the friendship was just as important to all the girls as the romance. And ultimately that made this a way more enjoyable. I mean even more enjoyable than I've enjoyed my share of let's just say anime with lots of girls who kind of sort of have a thing for the same guy. And in a lot of those other anime, you see the girls like all the other girls unwilling to give up even after they've basically lost, like High School DxD for instance, which may or may not be coming up in another one.
Please
But
do. I can't rewatch that.
yeah, so like you had like the friendship that prevailed amongst all that, and it showed that every single character's individual relationships, not just their relationships to the main protagonist, also mattered. And I think that's what makes Saekano really unique within
Saekano is not
anime
unique
generally.
at all. It's the exact same as everything else. Boring, terrible. As I mentioned in the first part, the show is literally called "Boring Girlfriend." They should have just changed it to "Boring Anime." Like it's so pointless and so boring, and like nothing is redeemable about it. The plot, no, I don't give a shit about their game. I don't give a shit about any of the relationships because you can't really.
The
My
game
thing is,
itself was
I I would have preferred if this was just a romance anime, because at least in a romance anime, you might have like a love triangle, but like it's not full on harem. Like this shit is just harem is just so stupid. Like girls just overwhelmingly loving the main character, especially some unlikable douchebag like this guy. Fucking Tomoya,
Tomoya is
fucking
extremely likable.
the most
He's
hate,
extremely
like
likable.
disgusting fucking weeb trash there ever was. Like this
How is he
guy,
unlikable?
just shut up. You see yourself in him. That's the only reason that you're like
No,
defending him right now.
no.
You basically wish you were this guy. This guy's literally the fantasy of everyone that is into this type of shit. And for me, it just doesn't fit my glove. It shouldn't fit anyone's glove. I think this glove should be just throw this shit away. This is so bad. Like so bad. This is probably the worst show we've covered. Like
No,
honestly. And I
no.
know we didn't give our review, like at least score in the previous part, but let me tell you, like I am hard pressed to give this like anything redeemable. This is actually shit. Like
This is
honestly,
like
the
literal
the
perfection as
fact
far as
that you
shows
say
we've
this is one of your
covered.
favorite animes is a disappointment to me. Should be a disappointment to everyone you've ever known. Like you should really self-analyze why this is your favorite anime and really think about.
I know why it's my
There's so
favorite
many
anime.
other
You
better
have
animes out
a
there.
great plot, solid characters,
Like
like
and
very
I'm holding back. I'm really trying not to be super negative, but this
and
this
then like you
show
had what
really
was
ruined my day today.
and also like if you're like a gamer and stuff, there's like that extra element where people do. At least I know, like ever since I was a kid, I
People that
wanted
play
to
visual novels
get
are
with
not
friends and
gamers.
make video games and stuff. And these people are doing it in
People
this.
that make visual novels are not games.
No, visual novels are
What's that
games,
anime
and
where they
they're
make a manga? That one's better than this in a thousandfold. You know why? Because at least making manga is like respectable. When you make just
well,
like a fucking visual novel, like I get it. Visual novels, some of them are decent, and I enjoy the genre somewhat, but it's just kind of bullshit. It's like not serious, and like to see a whole anime based on making a visual novel, come on. I mean, as I mentioned before, Welcome to NHK. At least does the same thing, but it does it better in my opinion because it's not a fucking harem, and you don't have to worry about the stupid harem. It's just about the characters and like their
well,
relationship.
like
It's not
you
about
keep
this
on
bullshit.
focusing on this harem, and you're missing like the whole point of the show, which is like each individual character
No,
like
the
is like their own,
no,
like has follows their own unique arc, which every single character's arc
none of
was
them.
absolutely interesting. I was engrossed throughout each
I don't know
character's arc.
any of the characters' arcs by the end of this. The movie basically did no job of like ending any of those arcs in any way.
Are you
Um,
kidding me? Like it did a satisfactory job ending all of those arcs.
I disagree a hundred
Wait,
percent.
like, let's go into like the characters then.
Yeah,
We've
go
talked
through the
about
characters.
Tomoya
Let's
before.
see.
Let's
Let's
start
see.
with Megumi. Actually, no, let's save her for last because I really have quite a bit I want to say about her. So let's go with Uraha first.
Yeah,
Um,
she's a writer at the beginning of the show.
yes.
She's a writer at the end of the show. She doesn't get the guy she wants. She still wants him at the end. Next, no
Well,
development,
no, you
no
missed out
nothing.
on the major part of her arc,
Go
which is
ahead.
like she has like a bit of like self-doubt about herself and the fact
Oh my
that the
god,
only
here we
reason that
go.
she could even work with Akane to begin with was because like ultimately she just wanted Eri. So Uraha was like having some reservations about her own skills and whether she was good enough to like make it on her own or whether she was just gonna be codependent upon like
Oh
somebody
my
else.
god. But the thing
Um,
is, it's so her character sucks. Everything about
and
that
not to
sucks.
mention it, like like you remember in the show, and then like maybe I mean, I think they touched on it in the movie too, but like how her whole relationship with Tomoya started is that he was a fan of her as a writer, so that's her like for her that was kind of a bit of validation that
No,
she
it wasn't
did
validation.
not
She
get
was like a master fucking writer, well respected. What are you talking about? You're brainwashed. She was already a master writer. What are you talking about?
No,
She had
she was
released
a
work.
sexy
She was well
yes,
known. What are you talking
yes,
about?
but
They were both already
her
like
whole
they're both
her whole
geniuses.
thing, her
Oh
whole
my
thing
god,
is
no.
that she had to always be trying to one up herself, and she never could accept the
That's what you
fact that
should do in life. You should always try to be better.
So what you're saying is she's a really solid character.
No, she's just a fucking pointless character that is
How
just
is
a
she pointless? You
she's
said
a
you agreed with every single
she's
thing I said.
no, she's a genius trope and she doesn't change at all. Nothing changes in
No,
her
no,
character
like
by the end of it.
it does change
No, it
because
doesn't.
she I think that like that doubt that she had about herself ultimately pushed her to want like to be able to like exceed whatever limits
Yeah,
that
the
she
whole
might have put on
subplot with
herself.
what was even going on with her and like that other shit, entirely pointless, and I didn't care about it even slightly. So
Well, what did you think about her relationship with like Eriri and then her relationship with Tomoya? Those are the two biggest relationships she has.
yeah, I did. They're
So
just pointless. She's just a background character to me. Pointless to this, especially this movie. They're just background characters in this movie. They're not even in this
or
movie.
there's a
Like
whole
for
part of the movie where
they're
Tomoya
in it for
goes
they're in it for
to work
five
with
seconds.
her and Eriri.
This movie is literally just a love movie between him and fucking Kato or whatever, and that's it. That's the whole fucking movie. The other characters are side characters. Everything that's going on with them is
No,
basically a
no.
waste of time.
Every character is their own individual person, and they do develop individually, as well as like
No,
their moments where
no.
they're just influencing the main plot.
Listen, I love character development stories more than anything, and when I
Yes,
see a
you should have
character
loved
actually
this.
develop, that would be cool. But no, not a single character developed in any single way in this entire show. And this is the longest anime we watched for the podcast, and we watched the movie follow up that concluded the story. And I would say every single moment of it was a complete waste of time, and I would not recommend this. I cannot emphasize that enough.
No, like let's get to the next character then. Eriri.
Yeah, my favorite character
Like
again. She doesn't develop at all and ends up just the
no,
same, like
no.
wanting him,
Well,
and that's
but
it.
let's say let's explore her character. First of all, I want to just put this out here. Normally, like tsundere characters, like for me, I take them or leave them. But like Eri, and then I guess like Eri and is like for me like Mio from MM. They're just two tsundere characters that just work. Like you could if you don't know what you're doing as a writer with a tsundere trope, it's automatically going to make an irritating character. But Eri is the tsundere that is more than just a tsundere. She, I can't even just like put it into words, but she has like dimensions and volume to her personality that actually like was really fleshed out in this movie, and it really actually surprised me because I would have been happy with just more of just what she was in a show, but she evolves way past that during the
Yeah, and
course of this movie.
yeah, even though, like I said, she's probably my favorite character, I disagree adamantly. I didn't see, maybe it's because I don't remember the show because I haven't seen it 20 times like you have. But for any regular viewer that watched this show and had to wait for the movie, they probably wouldn't remember hardly shit in the first place. And when they do get to this movie, like I did, basically the characters are identical, and by the end of the movie, they're identical. Like again, I don't see any
No, oh,
development at all.
like you remember in the show, like her biggest thing is that she was the childhood friend, and she does feel like she feels like Tomoya betrayed her, but
And
Tomoya also,
she still wants him by the end of the show.
well, she like I those feelings don't really go away overnight.
Here we
But she
go.
what she did like that was one thing that was really great about her and Udaha is the part where
No.
they realized that they had to let him go,
No.
and it
They
was
said no,
yes,
they said they'll keep trying, they'll keep waiting. That's
no,
what they
no,
said.
they did
My
no,
translation,
no.
that's what it said, dude. Maybe my
Yeah, yeah,
translation was fucked,
yeah,
but they're
yeah,
like they
yeah, yeah.
said, "Oh
It
yeah,
sounds like
we're gonna wait for him no matter how long it takes." That's basically what it was
no.
implying.
You misunderstood that line.
No,
Yes,
no,
that line
no,
was there, but
no,
you
no.
misunderstood
See,
what
I
that
knew
meant.
it. Even my subs were
No,
right. Okay.
no. You misunderstood what that meant. That meant that like they had pretty
Nice.
much given
You
up on the
let's
romantic
All right, everyone
aspects
listen to
of that.
Noob try to fucking retcon explain this bullshit. Go ahead.
I'm not trying to retcon explain anything. I'm just like explaining like what the intricacies in that line that you kind of missed, which was they meant that like yeah, even if we can't pursue him like romantically, we still want him to have something to look up to, because remember he kind of looked up to both of them for being like basically like what you were saying, geniuses in their respective fields, and it their like the heights they reached pushed Tomoya to want to go even further himself. So, like, because you remember when like Tomoya and Eri were younger, they both used to draw together. And then Tomoya just gave up on drawing, and then Eri kept doing it, and she ends up becoming like basically one of the greatest artists ever. And then
Again, she was already a genius before she
no,
even like really
no,
took
no.
them.
Like when they were younger, like it's implied that Tomoya and Eri were about on the same level, but he just stopped, and she just
Still,
kept on getting better.
still, I'm saying she was always a genius, and she just got better, and that was it.
Yes, but like her getting like her continuing to like evolve and get better at her craft pushed Tomoya to want to get better as a director and producer on his games and stuff. So and then the whole like having like the whole dynamic that Tomoya and Eri feel like they betrayed, like they feel like the other person betrayed them and stuff, because they basically fell apart over nothing. And I that's one thing where I'm glad that they eventually resolved it, but I wish they would have addressed more like was it just like petty, like like peer pressure type crap that caused them to split in the first place, because Eri, she ends up becoming more popular and like not wanting to hang out with Tomoya because he was still into his like otaku stuff. And then Tomoya, like basically avoiding her because he feels like she abandoned what she really was and stuff. But they still stayed close, but it wasn't as close as they used to be. I Everything about Aries' character from the start of the show to the end of the movie, especially when you
She was
like when you
hardly
saw.
in the movie. That's the thing. Like hardly any of the other characters. They were in the movie maybe like I would say like 30% of the movie, like 40%, like not even
Well, that's
half
a
the
good
movie.
chunk of the movie.
But
That
I'm
is a
saying
good chunk
that's not
of
even
the
over half
movie.
the movie. Half the movie was literally just him and what's her name, Dilly fucking around. Like Dilly
No,
fucking around is
no.
the definition of this show, and it's not you like talk about the game dev stuff. It's not even like realistic at all, dude. It's so garbage, and like oh my god, who's the programmer anyways? I'm still confused about that. Is he programming it?
It was
Like
Megumi.
like is she programming it? I thought she like was
Yes.
a writer by the end of it. That's something I don't
No,
even
no. Well,
know what is going on, dude. Like oh
she
my
was
god, dude.
doubling as producer and director along with Tomoya by the end, but she was also
No,
always
she
basically
she was
the
writing
programmer.
though. She was writing by the end of it.
Yes, yes, because she Tomoya wanted her to be
Which
more
was
involved in
but
the
the thing is,
game.
but
Like
that's even stupider. She's the worst character ever. But we'll get to her. Just keep going through these
no.
dumb fucking there's only 8 characters like I mentioned in the first part. Only 8 characters in this whole fucking show anyways that are even remotely relevant and they're all fucking
Well, how
terrible.
many characters do you need? Do you need 100 characters in order for an anime to be good?
I would at
Like
least like some interesting like
well,
literally a
what
one
you
per
get is
in One
interesting
Piece
characters
a
rather than
side
100
character that
bland
shows up in
characters.
one single episode of One Piece has a better arc, more personality than any of these 8 fucking reject losers.
How dare you compare One Piece to this?
I'm just
How
saying,
dare
even
you?
the worst episode of One Piece is better than every single fucking episode of this. Period.
I'm going to maybe offend a few people and probably take you off in the process, but Saekano easily beats out One
Noob
Piece.
has not seen One Piece, so
I have seen like 20 episodes
he's
of it, and you know what? I
he's
got
not even
bored
a
and I
real
dropped it.
anime fan. He's just a
No,
fucking
no,
well, all he
no,
is a fucking pervert, and he uses anime as a disguise for his
no. That's
perversion.
no. This people don't watch Saekano for because they're trying to fulfill
Saekano
their
is your favorite
perverted
anime because this
fantasies or
anime is the
whatever.
closely related to your crazy perverted dream of
No,
having a harem and being a game developer.
No, Saekano is up there on my list simply because of how well it executes its story, and it basically makes you fall in love with all the characters. Um,
I don't know, man.
I like character driven shows. I like
I like
shows that
character-driven
revolve more
shows.
than like really cool explosions and world ending attacks and stuff, but really no substance to the plot whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So now you're agreeing that like stuff like Saekano where you get that actual genuine character development, you get like a plot that actually matters. You know, I don't get how you've like found so many flaws in something that really didn't have any flaws to find. Like I said, I wanted to be more
You
critical this
know,
time
I would
around
agree
because I
with you
felt
in
like I
some
was
ways,
being a little too
because
biased in the last
the
one,
show
so
is
I wanted to
so
be.
the show is so boring and just a waste of time that yeah, it might not have many flaws because you can't really, find flaws in something so bland, and it's like looking at a blank piece of paper and be like, find the mistake. It's like, well, you may be right that there's not like any glaring mistakes, but what you're showing me is fucking worthless. And that's how the show
No,
basically makes me feel.
you need to go back and rewatch the show and watch the movie
I will
again. I think
never
that
watch this show again, or the
well,
movie, or any
we
of it.
might be touching on it for like the 1 year anniversary since the like episode 8 like went up. So
No, I think
yeah,
this
I
is gonna
think that
be bad. I
it,
mean,
yeah, honestly, like getting to the next character is gonna make me say something that I kind of want to see going forward. If because I would like to see like maybe a spin-off or like a sequel to Saekano where we get more, but mainly because of Michiru. I don't feel
yeah,
like I got
she's in the
enough
movie maybe
Michiru.
5 minutes and doesn't do anything.
She's
Her entire
still like the
her
music
arc was
producer
finished
for the.
though, but her arc was finished in the other one. She doesn't do anything in this.
No, the thing is, like at the end of the show, they were implying with like before the movie came out that Michiru was going to get more like more time on screen and stuff, and I was looking forward to that because Michiru is a great character. I just wish we could have gotten more of her. That's
You
like
know,
probably going to be my
another
biggest
thing I
criticism of the
noticed
movie
I wanted to
is
mention here is like there was like no fan service in this fucking like in this movie like at
it's
all.
almost like the movie was all about the plot.
It's almost like
What do you who would
they
have thought it?
forgot that
Who
the
would
whole
have
point
thought
of
it?
this movie or the show is to just jack off. So,
No, like no, like your
um
whole point of the movie was to jack off.
so like when they don't have that, like I was looking at the gallery of the screenshots of her when she was in the show and it's just showing like all these like fan service shots and I'm like, man, now that I think about it, there was no fan shots of like hardly any. And the ones they did
It's
have were very, very bland. It was just like,
it's
oh, it's showing.
almost like they cared more
It's
about
like
telling a unique
no,
and
they still
interesting
had it.
story.
Like they'd be like, oh, they'll like have the shots of like their legs and like their shirt fully covered, like no cleavage or nothing. Like it was complete ass. Why
Oh,
even have those
what do
shots?
you mean
You
like
talk about
normal girls wearing clothes? Oh
dude.
God
The
forbid. Like
cinematography in this was fucking terrible. Like the whole
no, the
movie is.
cinematography in this, like, let's talk about that real quick. The cinematography in this was perfect.
It
It
was
was
terrible.
freaking
It was
perfect.
terrible.
Every time, like they chose perfect camera angles to
Nope.
emphasize whatever emotion they were trying to emphasize in each specific
Dude, half
scene.
of this movie
Like
is literally
cameras
them setting.
panned with.
Half of the movie is literally them sitting at different tables, like going over papers or eating food. That's at least like a 50% of this fucking movie.
No, I would say 100% of this movie is characters that are not, like I said, doing like world exploding attacks and stuff. It's about like a more grounded
Yeah, and those world
story.
exploding attacks actually represent something and actually represent change and like
Yeah, it
development.
represents people not really having a story to tell, so they just want to
No.
like do some Michael Bay type of
No, when a
explosions to
character
keep
has like an
people's eyes
arc
glued to the
where they
screen for
like
an hour.
there's life and death situations and there's situations where it makes them like change like who they are as people or make decisions. Those are the stories that
Well,
really change
situations to make
characters.
them change who they are as people. That is basically Saekano. That is
Nothing
basically
happens.
Saekano.
He just gets a little stressed out that they might not finish the game by the deadline, and they easily finish it by the deadline. But the thing is, the deadline is artificially created by them joining with the producer bitch in the first place. Like they could have did like we do and spent 1,000 years making a game if they wanted
No,
to.
because
Like it was
no,
just it's so
like
pointless.
like if you're talking about like Udaha and Eri with their deadline being like pushed up. Well, actually, their deadline was basically couldn't be extended because Akane got sick, and she was basically
Yeah,
like
I
their
know
go between them, the creatives, and then the producers and stuff. So
exactly.
she wasn't able to like flex like any more of like her muscle
So yeah,
while
let's
like
talk
she
about
was
her
sick and
since we're
stuff.
talking about her. Worthless.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Why did she get sick? What happens? Did I miss something?
I think it was like main. Actually, what.
I don't even understood what happened. I thought it was maybe my subs. I missed something.
Yeah, like I think like what because that's why am I drawing a blank on that? It
I
was
was just confused.
I think it was from stress.
Mm.
The whole point being that she like not being there, like, it made it difficult for Eri and Utaha
Yeah,
to
see,
be
I never
able
even
to
understood
realize, like,
that
the
at
game
all.
that they were creating together. So their biggest thing was they wanted to create the ultimate RPG. They wanted this to be something that they could be proud to have their name on. But because they needed Akane there. Akane was like the driving force behind the whole production of that game, and with her getting sick, like they Eri and Utaha was being basically forced to uh just cave and give in to
I
making a
would like to
lackluster
read
game.
this quote
And
from the Reddit, or not the Reddit, but the Wikipedia, the Saekano wiki. Someone says, "What a psycho bitch," about this character.
nobody said that about that
Yep,
character.
what a psycho bitch. She's the antagonist.
Who is?
That's what someone said here. They said she is the antagonist of the show, which she
She
kind of
was she
was.
was kind of the antagonist of the show, but she becomes basically one of the main cast,
Yep, she
and like
basically
in an
joins the
ally
harem.
to Tomoya. She does not join the harem. You got to get off this harem. This anime is
It is a
goes
harem.
so
Even
far beyond a harem that you can't even
Yeah.
classify it as a
That's why
harem.
the movie's even sadder than the show, because the movie is like, okay, there's a harem clearly going on here, but the main character is so fucking dense and stupid that he decided to choose the most boring basic bitch of all of them, while also like still being a fucking weeb, and he like embraces both sides of himself. When in reality, this man needs to find some soul searching and actually find a real fucking chick with a personality that he didn't artificially create.
He didn't artificially create Megumi's personality. He just brought
Yeah,
out her.
sure, sure.
Megumi. She was like we'll get to her because she's a very complex character, and
All right.
I can't do
The
that
red
justice
hair
in just a
chick.
passive sentence.
What did she do? I don't even remember.
Izumi,
I remember she was like his underclassman, and but she when she showed up in this movie, I forgot who she was entirely, and I didn't have any idea why she was there or what she was doing. What was she
well,
doing?
her whole thing is like, remember
Is
in
she
the
just a
show
friend?
she was she was basically the whole reason she got into like anime and manga and
Yeah,
games and
because
stuff was
but she
because of
just there as a
Tomoya.
was she just there as his friend though? Is that the only reason she was there?
She no, she's part of Blessing Software now.
But what
Her
does she
and her
do? I didn't
She's
understand
an
what she was doing.
artist.
She was just
Remember,
doing art.
Eriri left, so she takes over as artist.
Oh, that's right. She was the artist,
Yeah,
but
and
she was
like
hardly in this movie either. I didn't see her draw one single picture. What the fuck?
you don't remember her drawing Megumi's like different like emotional breakdowns and stuff. Like Iori, this
Was
was
this in the
funny too.
movie or in the show?
Iori, this was in the movie. Iori was
Mm-mm.
like basically trying to get the rest of the team to make Megumi upset so that Izumi could draw her like
Yeah.
in her different
Okay.
emotions and stuff
Yeah, I know what you're
for the
talking
game.
about. That was stupid.
No, I thought that was awesome because
That
Iori.
makes sense.
We can't talk about Izumi
I
without
would,
talking about Iori, and
I was
Iori
still,
like is,
I was
huh?
trying to figure her out. Like I forgot who she was. That's the thing. I just didn't
Yeah,
remember who she was. Especially her
she
hair
like
was different. It threw me off. Uh,
she kind of serves like the. I mean, if you want to talk about maybe just like trope wise, she sort of falls into the little sister trope as far as this show goes, but she's a little bit more than that. She's actually a lot more than that. Her
yeah.
whole reasoning for even getting into the otaku culture at all was because of Tomoya introducing us to her, and Tomoya viewed her as like somebody like
She
who was
just
kind of
looked different
pure
in
and
the movie. That's
untainted.
why it threw me off. Is all. So
It was a long time between when I finished the show and when I was able to watch the movie, so I didn't really notice if she looked different. She looked mostly the same as far as
she
I
has
can
like
remember.
pigtails in the show, and she had her hair down in this movie, and it threw me off.
Ah, well, but yeah, outside of that, I feel like her character was still pretty like much the same. That's another thing too. Azumi, I like Azumi and Mitru. I wanted both of them to have a lot more screen time because I felt like they had a very unique arc that really just never got off the ground before the movie ends. And I understand that they were trying to adapt like several volumes into one movie, and for what they did, because I think they adapted like 5 or 6 volumes into this one movie. Think about that for a second. How much story they managed to adapt into a movie, and it just came out this good, and
Man,
that
look at
that just says
you
something.
trying to like spin that as a good thing. You know what
I'm
we
saying
say in
like,
the real world about doing shit like that? We say that it's cutting corners and being lazy and missing a lot of the story. This might have been a good manga. It really might have been. But the anime, shit tier. The movie, ass.
well, I think, at some point we might, have to go back and review the light novels, and yeah, there was a manga too, right? Uh,
Yeah,
was there a manga on this?
yes.
Yeah, we
I
might
don't
have to
know if
go
the
back
manga
and
came after or before the anime. I think it came
I'm pretty
before.
sure that if there was a manga, it came after the light novels, because the light novels
Well,
would have been
the
what
way the
the
way
show
the
was
trend
based
usually
on.
goes is light novel manga usually
Yeah, like a light novel will get a manga
for these
adaptation,
type
and
of
the
harem
manga.
garbage.
Yeah,
Or sometimes they'll
no,
start off as
no,
visual novels first, but that would have been ironic for that to happen. But this was a visual novel too. Why don't you play the PSP game and then give us all a review for the Noob and Solo channel?
yeah, we'll definitely do that.
No, you can do that on your
No,
own time.
no, well,
I'm not playing a visual novel
no,
based off these dimwits.
yeah, we'll definitely be doing that.
That is not
Uh,
happening.
that's totally gonna happen.
I'm not playing a visual novel
Nah,
based on
let's
a
be real.
game about making a visual novel.
Yeah, I think we'll set up a PSP emulator and
PS Vita emulator.
oh yeah, Vita emulator, and then we'll play this over Parsec. So I think people can look forward to that coming down the pipeline.
That's not happening.
It's totally gonna
Unfortunately.
happen. We'll run a
Not
poll.
happening.
We'll run a poll. Um,
And Square Enix published it too. Man,
yeah, well,
Square.
that means we have to play it. But yeah, getting back to the characters though, Izumi and Michiru, I wanted them to have more screen time. That was my biggest disappointment about this movie, is that those characters were great and they deserved more screen time than they got. I'm hoping that this isn't the end of the Saekano franchise. I know like it was the end of the light novel adaptation the way they have it, but I think the fans, like me included in that, definitely want more of this. And more importantly, I wish people make before I you go on to Megumi, which actually we'll cover Iori a little bit more real quick and then go to Megumi. But before that, I just want to say that these anime studios that are making, I don't even blame the anime studios. I blame the people like in charge of localizing, like companies like say Funimation or Crunchyroll or Netflix or whoever ends up picking it up.
Didn't
We
Amazon
want.
license the season 2 for this?
Oh yeah,
I
Amazon
I
too.
think
Like
Amazon didn't like it. It didn't do well
like
enough on
well
Amazon, so
well no, well
Amazon
see,
said fuck it.
I like this is the thing too. It's something that the tragedy of the fact that we had to go through so much trouble to even watch this movie just says like the biggest flaw with the anime industry, at least in the States, and it's that a lot of great anime like this are kind of like thrown under the carpet just so they can peddle out more shonen. And don't get me wrong, I love a lot of shonen stuff, but I mean, it's like these days all we get is like either shonen and like maybe 4 or 5 different like adaptations from other stuff. But there's just so much more stuff coming out in Japan, so much stuff more stuff that's already in Japan that hasn't come out in the States. And a lot of this stuff's not even on streaming services. I have a subscription to every single streaming service that shows any kind of anime. This movie wasn't on any of them. And that is bullshit. So that's just my little rant on that. I could there's definitely a few other things I could rant about with anime industry at large, but it's beyond the scope of
Hmm.
this. Iori, I thought his character was surprisingly. I mean, like this was like one of the biggest surprises of the movie is just how much development Iori got in this movie. He was kind of sort of like the antagonist turned anti-hero in the show, but in this movie he flat out becomes a hero, and it was awesome seeing his like transition from somebody who was kind of antagonistic to Tomoya to somebody who basically acts more like his best friend. And you see that in like him like basically always pushing Tomoya to try to continue with his game development, trying his best to make sure that the game they're currently working on gets released. Not to mention, I mentioned that part before about how he could basically read Megumi like a book, and he knew everything they needed to do to set her off, and that was awesome. So Iori, and also the fact that he was like able to leverage his connections with Akane and stuff to help out with that game as well. Iori was like one of the biggest heroes of this movie. So I'm glad that we got more Iori. I'm just hoping that in the future, if some more Saekano stuff comes out, we get more Michiru and we get more Izumi. I wouldn't even mind just having like maybe a side story about Michiru or Izumi because I just want to know more about those characters. But let's get to Megumi,
Mm.
the most complex character in the movie by far, and probably one of the most complex characters in anime. First of all, before I go into anything, what did you think about Megumi's character from the start of the show to the end of the movie?
As I mentioned in part one, the name of the show is Boring Girlfriend, and god damn do they live up to it. They create the single boring protagonist of any anime I've ever seen, and they do it with style, shamelessly, and disgracefully. Um, and her character arc, she goes from a bland, no one likes, no personality character, and she's forcefully tried to be made into something that she's not. And by the end of it, she basically is still bland and pointless. And she just gets the guy that she wanted, and he reluctantly is with her, even though he's still rather fuck anime bitches. So it just really shows how shitty she really was.
It really does show something.
Yeah.
And that's h- I think you went into this movie with like tinted glasses, not even rose tinted, just tinted,
Mm.
because there was an arc that both her and Tomoya went through separately, and then the arc they go through together, and you didn't really touch on that at all. So Tomoya, like to talk about Megumi's character arc, we need to talk about Tomoya a little bit more. Tomoya Tomoya's arc is kind of parallel to hers in that he starts out as like a guy who is totally into the otaku culture. He basically he the only relationships he has is relationships that are like directly related to his love with anime, games, and manga and stuff. That's how his whole relationship with Uraha and Erui goes. Megumi, however, is her whole arc is that she is the boring girl. She's the girl that like you remember at the start of the show, she'd be like in those meetings at Blessing Software and stuff, and like they'd be having a meeting and talking for like 20, 30 minutes or so, and nobody even noticed that she was there until she like as said something or asked some random question. So she starts out as I'd say like the typical like the typical like not really antisocial but non-social type of character you would see in a real high school. I know I was probably a lot like that. I think a lot of people were where you're not really like you don't really stand out as being super nerdy. You just don't stand out at all. You're just kind of like there and then you're not there. So her whole thing was not only coming out of her shell, but you know, becoming somebody that can draw attention to her. And you see, I mean, it's kind of like at the start of the show, you see that she's basically like that. But she doesn't realize it. She is the type of person that other people are drawn towards, but she doesn't realize it because she I mean I actually can't even figure out why, but you see when at the start of the show, this whole the whole arc, the whole plot of the entire show as well as the movie starts with the fact that Tomoya saw Megumi when she was at her point where she was out of her shell, like and just in her element, like with the hat and stuff that blown in the wind, and then Tomoya being absolutely flabbergasted when he saw her and stuff. but he couldn't even believe it was the same girl when he ran into her in the hallway. She had to tell him. And then he didn't even think about it until he was running away from her. He's like, "Wait a minute." So seeing her like that and seeing her basically throughout most of the show not really showing much emotion at all until like you get towards the end of the show where she starts developing feelings for Tomoya toward the end of the show. But for most of the show, she was kind of like I think she was just happy just that people were around her, because like, she probably didn't have many friends before that. Going into the movie, though, you start to see a whole different side to Megumi. You start to see her actually show more emotion, which is something she didn't do a whole lot of even toward the end of the show. But you start seeing her in the movie showing more emotion, like, getting upset, when, like, she should be getting upset, able to express her feelings a lot more, especially when she like breaks down and she says, "I don't care if y'all were Tomoya's childhood friends or like like y'all know him like so well. He's mine, and I'm not letting anybody else have him." That was the best. I would say that was the best finale of a single character arc I've ever seen,
Uh,
because it wasn't something that happened instantly. It's something that happened gradually, and
mhm.
then once it hit a certain point where it reached like a bowling point, you start to see what her actual characters like. That's not a character she was pretending to be at that point. That's actually what she was, and she was trying to suppress for like such a long time. And that whole boiling point she reached in that arc kind of coincided with Tomoya realizing that uh like he still loves anime and manga and games and stuff, but he was more fulfilled by having like not just relationships with these friends, but realizing that his relationship with Megumi was starting to mean more to him than like the games and manga and stuff that like brought about the whole blessing software experience to begin with. And when those two events like happen and like the two characters like finally like confront each other, it was the most in my opinion the most epic conclusion to two different character arcs, but the most epic conclusion to a single like plot arc for like the entire anime.
I mean, in an anime full of nothingness, then I mean, you guess you're kind of right there.
There was a whole lot going on in this anime, and the thing is, like, it doesn't have to like overemphasize a lot of drama and stuff to make its story progress or make you care about the characters. The characters are basically alive, and you're just watching them go through their life and going through like
Yeah,
their
it's
ups and
called
downs
slice
and
of
stuff.
life. It's a very popular genre with literally any other show being significantly better.
I gotta heavily disagree, and I don't think any other anime does the slice of life thing as well as Saekano does.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah, so I guess like yeah, with that,
I did want to mention, while you were talking, I did look into some of the stuff about the manga. So, because I was a little confused by looking over it and what it means. So basically, what the anime is an adaptation of the light novels. So there's 13 light novels. However, there is a manga adaptation which is 8 volumes long, which basically tells the same story. But then there's a spin-off manga where
we get more Izumi and Michiru.
no, well, I don't know, but it's basically where instead of boring girlfriend, he goes with his childhood the blonde chick. What's her name? Erie.
Eri,
Yeah. So he goes with her. That only has 3 volumes, comparison to the 8 of the manga. But then there's also a spin-off manga which is actually longer than the original manga, where he picks the other chick, the writer chick, and that's 10 volumes long. So there's a manga out here, and it's a completely alternate world story where she's the main character of the show. It's not even like the harem is different. She's the main character, and then he's her assistant. And it's 10 volumes. It's longer than the manga. And honestly, it's probably better than this stupid, boring girlfriend shit in the first place. So
I'm interested in.
why don't you go read that?
I am interested in like reading that manga. I'm gonna still say that Saekano from start of the show to the end of this movie was a complete masterpiece. One other thing I would like to touch on too is best post credit scene ever. You watched it through the after the credits ended, right?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how like the false ending, like where it's like a dark, dreary
I
future.
know it was such a crazy
I
turn.
actually wanted that to be the ending. If that was the
No.
ending, that would have been amazing. If that was the actual ending, I think that would have raised it a couple points for me if it decided like,
Oh my
yeah,
god, you
you got
don't know
everything you
how
wanted, then it was dark.
when I saw that I was like raging. I was like, "This can't be it! No!" And I was like screaming at my TV and stuff. And then you realize like that somebody like pulled a fast one on you, and you're like,
Well,
"Huh."
I knew it was gonna be bullshit from the start,
Oh man, but it
but
was like crazy. I literally like I was like fully invested, and I was
if
like,
they had the balls to do that,
"No!"
that would have been cool. But they didn't. Again, they just went with the this is scenario,
Well, you
whatever.
know what? For a lot of people who just watched that part and then they just turned it off afterwards, that is how the movie ended. And for those people, like
No
I
one
just
turned it.
continue
No,
watching.
not a single person turned it off. Not a single
I
person.
almost did. I was like actually I was like getting ready to
Oh
like
my god.
walk out of my apartment. I was like, this can't be happening. This can't be real. Oh, but man, that was like such a crazy twist. And like honestly, Disney and the like Marvel movies, they don't even pull off post credit scenes as good as Saikano did. That was amazing. And then you get to see like how that like you remember what I was talking about earlier with that whole friendship thing. They're all still friends even after like they grow up. They
Yeah,
like
hopefully he's
maybe
in
kind
some
of
kind of kinky relationship where it's an open relationship and he can bang the other chicks on the weekends. Let's hope.
no, like yeah, like you're stuck on the idea of this being a harem, but this transcended harem like a long time ago.
Oh,
This
this was
this
always
turned
a
into some
harem until
no,
ended as a harem.
no.
And
This ended as a masterpiece, and this is an
so
example
is that your
for
best moment? Is that your best moment then?
uh yeah, I'm gonna have to say that.
Because let me
Like,
tell you, my best moment was the the credits because I knew it was over. And then after the post credit scene, knowing that I would never have to watch Saikano ever again or talk about it ever again after doing this podcast. That was my best moment.
no, I mean, what did you think about the confession scene where like Tomoya finally confesses to Megumi?
Ass, pointless. I thought it was obvious.
Really? Like,
She knew he liked him. She wanted him to like her. I mean, whatever, dude. Like it was whatever. It was. This is not.
this
There's
this was like pure
I've seen
satisfaction.
romance anime and they're good. Harem anime and romance anime are opposites. You can't have both. If you try to do both, you're gonna have a bad fucking time. Like I said, you can do a love
This
triangle. You can do like complex relationships if you do it right, and they're just not blindlessly all
well,
obsessed with
this was
one
like
loser.
this falls into the complex relationships type of category where it
It
wasn't
doesn't.
really fans. You admitted earlier that it didn't have any fan
In the
service. It
movie,
was yeah, oh, it was mostly focused on its plot and telling a
one of
really
the
compelling
only
story.
interesting things about harem they took away from the movie and made it basically a harem movie where they took away the fun harem elements and they just made it a poor snob fest trying to turn harem into a housewife. You can't do that. You can't turn a harem into a housewife.
Nah, I think you like if you go like yeah, you probably went into this the show and the movie like with a certain preconceived notion, and all of your opinions are based on that notion.
Oh
But
yeah,
if you
also
go into
art was terrible, music was
you
terrible.
thought the art was terrible, really?
It was pretty ugly for a
Are
movie.
you kidding me?
Ugly. Pretty
Like,
shit for a
oh no,
movie.
no. Are you kidding me? Like, look. For one
It was
thing,
for a movie. For
the
a
set
movie.
pieces were amazing. Like, look, the amount of detail that went into those backgrounds, the number of
Mm.
frames of animation within the characters. This movie was really well animated, and it
Dude,
looks really good.
honestly,
I would say the
Cloverworks,
post processing effects on lighting and stuff was also done really well. Like, the
I'm
audio
looking at
cues were really
Cloverworks,
great.
what they've worked on. Let's see, they worked on Fairy Tale. They worked on Persona 5. They worked on Grand Order. Um, and The Promised Neverland season 1 and 2, which were mediocre. So yeah, they have a really shitty track record in their movies.
Mediocre. How high
Um,
of a score did we give Promised Neverland one?
I'm talking about that, not for animation, buddy, for
No,
story.
no, the animation was pretty good in that.
No, 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 no.
I heard that it takes some shortcuts in season. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't watched season 2, but I'm going to
Exactly.
eventually.
We're going to for the
But
podcast, definitely. That's one of the
yeah,
follow ups we're gonna
but
do.
season 1, like, there was never a point in season 1 of Promised Neverland where I thought, "Man, this looks like shit."
I
I
didn't.
always thought,
It was decent, but like especially for movies, I haven't seen the other two films that they worked on, which is Her Blue Sky and then Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl, whatever the fuck
"Oh,
that is.
Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Senpai?"
But yeah, whatever that is.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up. It's coming
They
up.
did a movie that's the sequel to that too.
Oh, I didn't even know that had a movie sequel. I definitely need to get on that
Yeah, the
too.
movie sequel is the sequel to the anime, which honestly, I actually now that I look at that, I've heard decent things about the anime. Is it a harem?
You think everything's a harem.
I think everything you like is a harem.
No, no.
Okay, then maybe
There
we'll
there's
cover it.
there's only one love interest, and Rascal
By the
does not
way,
dream
if
of
you
Bunny
only
Senpai.
like harem, please unsubscribe and don't listen to the podcast anymore because
No,
we
no,
will not
no.
be
This
covering harem anymore.
are you kidding me? Like, oh, I actually what you consider harem is probably a lot of what most people don't consider harem. So, in that respect, eventually, I think we'll get to High School DxD, which
All
actually
Wikipedia's
I will say High School DxD. I will classify that as a harem.
All the
That is a
Wikipedias
flat out
say
harem.
it's a harem, dude. You're just living in fucking denial. It acknowledges itself as a harem, so you can't just say it's not a harem when everyone else acknowledges it
No,
as a harem besides you. That makes you called a fucking psycho,
no,
and you need to get
no.
yourself evaluated about that because that is a
No,
problem.
it doesn't really do justice to the complexity of the plot in Saekano.
With that
It
said, let's
really
get on into final thoughts here. I'm going to keep it short since I basically said it over and over and over. Waste of time. That's the key word. If you paid attention, the special word for today was waste of time, and that's what this show was. And if you listen to this podcast, you probably either agreed with me it was a waste of time and you just wanted to hear me rant about it, or you wanted to see if Noob could come up with any counter arguments, and he failed miserably. So with that said, this anime sucks, and
no,
it is a harem. And by what I'm left with as a final thought is that the spin-off manga where he picks the other chick was probably infinitely better, and you probably should have read that and not wasted your time with this. And that's my final thoughts. Go ahead, noob.
all right. Saikano, final thoughts for me. I'm gonna say, first of all, just talking about the movie and stuff, which is mainly what this particular episode was over, and as well as I'm gonna cover the show briefly. The show was excellent. It was really well done. The direction was on point. I felt like it had a pretty decent pacing throughout. The movie is mostly the same too. Do I wish we could have gotten more of other characters like Michiru and Izumi? Yes, but even that doesn't really detract from this being a really enjoyable movie. I've actually watched the movie twice now. I just really enjoy everything about the Saikano franchise. These characters are something that, once you get attached to them, you're going to be on the edge of your seat, wanting to know what happens next, or like how Tomoya responds to the other characters. Uh, and overall, I'm gonna say this is definitely one of the best anime ever made, and I would say probably like the best anime. Well, as far as movies go, the best anime movie I've seen in the past 2 or 3 years, and I've seen quite a few. It's just none of them really like stuck with me like this movie did. So my final thoughts: this anime was a masterpiece. So
Masterpiece. Okay.
yeah.
Well, That's your final thoughts. Let's go to the My Anime list for the definitive score.
The
Let's
definitive
first
score is gonna be a
what
10.
let's
So,
first start with the anime itself. I'm saying right now, right here, 3.
well, I'm going to say 20. So, what does that average out to?
No.
Uh,
No, let's talk about it. So 3 is very bad on the My Anime list.
no, your score is seriously flawed, and well, we can't just find a middle ground on that because
I'm
you're
saying 3.
basically saying it's complete ass, and for me, I pretty much consider it perfect. I would definitely consider this anime up there, if not above Erased.
This is
So
definitely a 3.
this is not a three. Um,
This is worse
I'm
than No Guns Life.
I'm going to say 10. Um, I'm willing to go as low as a 9.
I say
But
3.
I'm definitely not going anywhere below 8.
I
I'm
think
willing to maybe
3
meet
is
you at
fair.
8. I no,
3
no,
is fair.
no.
You know
I
what?
really think that
Let's
this
look at the
was a
My
perfect
Anime
10.
list. Let's see what we've done, and let's see if it's better or worse. Because I'm gonna say 3 is a fair score. I think
No,
3
no,
truthfully encapsulates what this show's about. So let's see.
no.
What
I
was
was willing to meet you in the middle on some of the
No
other
Guns
shows we've
Life? Let's
done.
see. It is worse than No Guns Life, so 3. It has to be at a 3 because
No,
No Guns Life was better.
no, no.
I think so.
No.
I really think so.
I'm like No Guns Life had some massive issues that even fans of No Guns Life couldn't overlook. Saekano, like your whole opinion is based on a bias of the entire anime genre that
No,
Saekano
no, I will
supposedly falls
acknowledge
in.
Orisuke. We gave that a 7. Orisuke is a 7. Saikano is a 3. Like I said
No,
in the part 1, I rather
no,
watch Orisuke 7 times in a row
no.
rather than watch
This
any of
Saekano was
Saikano.
better. Saekano was better than Orisuke.
Not in my
I
opinion. Not in
yeah,
my
I mean
opinion.
well, yeah, your
I'm
opinion
so
is
sorry.
deeply
It
flawed,
is a
and we're
3.
not oh no, we're not ending this at
3.
that. Oh no,
I
absolutely
say
not.
3 is a fair score.
I was willing to meet you by going down to maybe a 9, maybe even a 8. Although
3
8 is for
is
me a little
fair.
too low for this show.
3
This
is
show
fair.
was no. I
You
think
know
my
what?
opinion should
For
count a little
you,
bit
for
more than
you,
yours because
because
I've seen
for meeting in the middle, I'll give it a 4. I will say it's
no,
as good as No
no,
Guns Life. I
no.
can't give it any higher than that.
No, that's BS. In that case, I don't think we should rate Saekano because
We
I will
have
not
to
live
rate
with
it. That is,
anything lower than an
we
8.
have to rate it, man. Like,
No,
okay, listen, we could probably maybe do a 5.
no, no.
5 is
You
as
know what?
high as I can
You know what?
comfortably go.
I think in that case, let's do a poll on this. We'll do a
No,
poll and we'll say like which like like ask
all
for
right,
people's scores on
we can do a
Saekano.
poll, but listen, if we do a poll, we're not putting it in the Saikano Reddit
Yes, we are.
because that's where the
Th-
Saikano
Those
fans
are the people
are.
who watch the show.
Of course, they're gonna get a 10. Fucking,
Well,
they're
also
no
people who
lifed.
have not watched it should be the
I'll
ones
put it in
reviewing
the
it.
anime form, in the
No, we're
anime
pitting it.
poll.
Well, it has to go in the Saekano form.
Nope, I'll put it on
Yes,
Twitter and on. I'll put it
we'll do.
on
Oh,
the anime
yeah,
forums. It's
Twitter is
not
fair,
going.
and then the
Not
Saekano Reddit.
Nope. The Saikano
Yes,
Reddit
yes.
is biased.
No, they're not. They're
Biased.
people who actually watched the show.
They're biased though. They're fans
Oh,
of the
because
show.
they watched it. Oh,
No,
so
they're
people who
people. You
haven't
don't just
watched it,
watch a show and then
their
join the
opinion should
Reddit.
matter
You
more
don't just
than
watch the show
people
and
who
join the
have
Reddit. You
watched it.
join the Reddit if you want to be involved in the conversation about the show. And most people don't join it because they hate it. If they truly hate it like I do,
How many
then they
people are in the
wouldn't join it.
Saekano Reddit?
Too many people to be considered.
No. So
They're too
you're saying
biased.
that there's a decent amount of people that disagree with you, basically.
No, there's just a bias
No,
of
like
the people on the Reddit.
your opinion is an exception and not the rule.
Dude, I'm
And
sorry. It's not going
no,
there. But
it's going there.
I'm
It's
gonna
definitely going
say
there.
5 is my final
No,
score.
I'm not willing to live with that score at all.
Because okay, let's look at what we gave a 6. We gave MM High School of the Dead. We gave both of those a 6, and this show is
Although
not
I'm
better
pretty
than either
sure,
of those.
remembering back, I wanted both of those to get higher scores.
And I don't think this show should get any higher than
No,
those
like
two.
I've let you talk me down quite a bit on a lot of other great shows we've covered, but I am not willing to let you talk me down on Saekano.
Saekano is the worst show we've covered.
No, it is definitely not. In fact, it is the best show we've covered to this point.
It is not. It is not.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, in fact, it is.
It definitely is not.
Um, yes, it is. Um,
No, it is the worst harem genre that you picked.
no, no. And I've explained before how even if you think it started off as a harem, it definitely ended as more of a character study.
So
And,
with that, my final score is gonna be 5 out of 10.
and yeah, your
And we'll
final
do
score is
we'll do a
BS.
Twitter
And
poll and see if people think it should be different than that. We'll
no,
put a poll out. We'll start it at 5 and then we'll go all the way up to 8 because it's not going higher than an 8. So
yeah,
you can
it's
pick
going up
5,
to
6, 7, or 8, and I will
if
put this poll.
your opinion is the only opinion that is outside of the range of like 9 or 10, then it's getting a 10.
Then I'm gonna put it down to 3. Then
No, no, it like
I
you
moved
can't
up
be
two
like you
points.
can't say you're right when
I
you
moved
have
up two
one
points for
opinion that
you.
differs
You
with
moved down
everybody else
2 points
that's
for
there to
me.
review the show.
You don't want to move any closer. I would say
No,
that's
I
fair.
moved down multiple points on every other show we've reviewed.
Yeah, and
I
I moved up
I
points.
because the
I
thing is,
moved up points. MM should
no,
really be a 4 too. Worski
no,
should have been like a 5
no.
or 6, but
No,
I upped those for you.
we're gonna touch MM again. Believe me, MM is coming back. But Orisuki, I was willing to go down a little bit on that because you gave me
Listen,
some BS reason about
we make
how these
compromises.
numbers don't mean exactly what you think they do. I'm like, well, okay, but
We make compromises. I increased ratings on shows that you biasly thought were way better than they were, and we made agreements on some of
no.
them. But this one,
Yeah,
I'm
but no,
saying
no, we
5.
didn't make agreements. I literally had to give
5.
up on every single show up to this point. We're
5.
raising. I'm not willing to settle for anything less than 8. 8 is
5.
the bare minimum I'm willing to settle with.
And I'm bare minimum willing to settle with 5.
Something's got to happen. We might want to wait till this
I
poll is
told
done.
you we're gonna do.
I'm willing to like concede to the poll,
Yeah,
but
but the
we
poll way the
might
poll
want
is
to wait.
structured, we're doing 5, 6, 7, or 8. We're not giving them the
No,
option
no,
to go higher or lower.
we're given the option to go higher.
They
We're
can
giving
they
the
can
option.
cry and moan in the comments if
No,
they think it's
no,
higher or
no,
lower.
no, because you're full of BS right now.
Nope,
Well,
that's the
I
fairest way to do it
I
because those are the agreed upon scores, and then we'll give the
no,
options in the middle.
no. Like, because the thing is, you're the way
Because if the
you
average
set that
falls,
up,
if the
the
average
way you
falls in the
set that
middle,
up,
then
like the way you set it up is so that the average would fall in the middle, and the highest you would possibly be able to give it at that point is a 6. That is literally the way
no,
you set it up. I
no,
understand how math
not
works.
true, not
Um,
true.
yeah,
5, 6,
you're
7, and
doing this
8.
intentionally so that you
No,
don't have to
no.
give it anywhere near an 8.
No, because if it's
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, or 8, if the true fans will come out, then they'll say 8. Fine, I'll even agree to put it in the Saekano Reddit if we cap
All
it out
right.
at 8. If we do
No,
5, 6, 7, and 8.
no,
And they'll
because
look. All of them are gonna cry and bitch and downvote the poll, and then anyways because they don't have a 10 option. Then it's perfect.
I mean, so let's give them the 10 option.
Nope, I can't do that.
Yes, we could say 5, 7, 9, 10.
Nope. 5, 6, 7, 8, because that is the range at which we're operating our scores at.
Ah, I disagree. I disagree
You
entirely.
said that's the lowest you would go, and I said that was the highest I would go. So then, if it falls in between, then that's the fairest way to be.
No, that's not the fair sweep. Like it'll be because no matter what, you're ultimately designing this so that it will average out to around a 6. That's
That,
what's going to end up
that's
happening.
if you don't have faith in the fans.
Well, no, the thing is, even if I do, like you're taking away 2 of the higher numbers just so that the average is automatically going to be lower.
Yeah, and I also took away 4
Like
of the lower
it's like
numbers.
all right, I'd say we put all the numbers in then. Let people instead of having a poll, let
You
people
can't
just
do that. You're
get
limited to 4 on Twitter
no.
and most things.
Well, I'm saying let's not do it as a poll then. Just ask people like on a scale of 1 to 10 what the way they would rate
No, we're not going to
Saekano
get
at.
as many replies, so
No.
it won't be worth as much.
Yeah, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it.
Well, we'll
because
we'll talk
right
we'll
now
talk
you're
about this off
before.
the recording. By the time this goes live, if you want to vote on the poll, if you've listened this long, the poll's going to be in the description, or whatever we're going to do. All be in the description, and we'll talk about it on next week's episode, which we're going to be covering. What did I decide on? The day I became a god, which Noob has seen. I have not personally seen yet, but I've heard good things from what I've heard a little bit. Some people have said it sucks in the later half. We'll kind of see. It's made by the same guy who made, what was it, Angel Beats in Charlotte.
Angel Beats
So
in Charlotte.
yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. But with that, I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it here and sign off. So we'll see you next week.
See you next week.